Hey there, Guardians. Hope you guys are doing well. Today we're going to be talking about Stormcaller, which is the Arc Warlock subclass. So I'm going to be covering the two supers. We'll go over the abilities, the aspects, and then I'll touch on some key exotics that are good for synergizing with Arc Warlock. So to start off, we have Storm Trance. So this is a roaming super where you basically roam around the battlefield and harness your inner dark side, a la Star Wars, and you can electrocute things. And it looks like this. So pretty cool. This one is pretty much all ag clear and also some good PvP usage, but not really good for boss damage. But there is an exotic that makes this a lot better. Now the second one, which it's unfortunately we only have two for Arc Warlock, but this one is what I would recommend for general use for PvE activities. So this is called Chaos Reach. So you just basically fire a giant lightning beam at your foes, and you're going to be midair like this, and you can kind of move around a little bit. This one does a little bit more damage to bosses. It's still not a great boss killer, but of the two options, I think it is probably the better option for most PvE activities. So moving on, some abilities. So we have our standard rifts here, so Healing Rift and Empowering Rift. For glides, we have the three standard glides here. As always, I recommend Burst Glide. So for melees, you have two options here. The first one is Chain Lightning. So it states an extended range melee that jolts your target and chains lightning to nearby targets. And then while you're amplified, it creates an additional set of chains. As a reminder, anytime you see these terms such as jolt and amplified, it'll always tell you what they mean to the side of it. And I'll show you that here. So this is our first melee ability. So I'm going to use it, and it chains to other foes to kill them. For our second melee, we have Ball Lightning. So you can fire an arc projectile, and while you're amplified, it has added effects. It releases additional lightning strikes before detonating. And it looks like this. Pretty cool. As far as choosing which one, I usually go with Chain Lightning as it's better for ag clear, but Ball Lightning maybe if you want to be a little safer, do things from distance. Now as far as grenades go, I only recommend two grenades for Arc Warlock, and that's Flashbang and Pulse Grenade. Pulse Grenade, you just throw it out and just sits there, periodically damages targets, and then Flashbang, it's going to bounce and then blind foes in an AoE, so really good for CC. Moving along to the aspects. So the first one is Arc Soul. So this is one of my favorite aspects in the game. I love Arc Souls. So you cast your Rift down, and it creates this little Arc Soul, which is like a little Arc buddy that flies around you. So allies can pass through your Rift, and they also get an Arc Soul. And basically what it does is it shoots at all enemies. So it's super good. And then while you're amplified, your Arc Soul is even better. So I'm gonna show you here. So you can see I have a timer on the left, and I got my little Arc buddy following me. And I'm not even going to fire a gun, it'll just automatically start shooting. So this one's super good for ag clear. And there's an exotic that makes this even better, but overall just a very, very good aspect. So the next aspect we have is Lightning Surge. So while sliding, activate your charged melee, and you blink forward, and it calls down lightning strikes that jolt targets. So I'm going to slide, and that's what it looks like. This one is definitely more used for PvP. And that's mainly because two of the three aspects are a staple to your PvE builds. And I'll cover the third one in a second with Electrostatic Mind, but pretty good for PvP. So the last aspect is Electrostatic Mind, like I mentioned. So this one, when you defeat targets with arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets, you create an ionic trace. And then collecting an ionic trace makes you amplified. So I'll show you that here. We'll do it with the weapon because it said if I defeat jolted enemies, that works as well. And you see the little thing on the ground, that's an ionic trace. So basically that just gives me ability energy. Builds you want to do, ionic traces are super good for that. And you see I already got a lot of my abilities back. I can do this again, get my Arc Soul back. And each Arc Soul kill counts as an ability kill. You see I'm making ionic traces with every kill I'm getting. So that's where your gameplay loop is largely going to be with Arc Warlock. And lastly, we have some good exotic armor pieces that are good for Arc Warlock. So the first one is Crown of Tempest, which is an exotic helmet. So it states Arc Ability or Jolt Final Blows increase the recharge rate of your Arc abilities and extend the duration of Storm Trance. So this one is obviously going to be paired with your Storm Trance super. And then it has some decent neutral game with the ability spam as well with that first part. Now the next one, Fallen Sunstar, which is also a helmet. It states ionic traces you create move faster and grant you additional ability energy. So as you remember, one of our aspect allows us to get an ionic trace whenever we get an ability kill or a jolt kill. So this is basically just going to flat out buff the ionic traces And then also nearby allies, they also get ability energy when you collect in an ionic trace. So this is good for teamwork as well. Next one, we have one of my favorite exotics in the game. So this is Getaway Artist. So this allows you to hold your grenade button and you convert your arc grenade into an arc soul and become amplified. And the arc soul functions as an autonomous grid. So we talked a little bit about this with the aspect. So this one does the same thing, but you don't need to cast a rift. You can just consume your grenade. So this one can be paired with arc soul as an aspect. That way you have 2 arc souls, but you don't need to. So if you wanted to get rid of this, you can still do arc souls by just holding your grenade. And also because you become amplified automatically, you get the buffed up version of arc soul if you have the aspect. So that is kind of nice. So next up we have Storm Dancer's Brace. Now this one states each target you defeat with Storm Trance increases the damage you deal with it and refunds super energy when Storm Trance ends. Obviously this is aimed at ad clear. This is not really a boss killer, as Storm Trance is not a boss killer. It doesn't do a lot of total damage, but it has decent ad capability. So if you just want a longer Storm Trance roaming arc super for Warlock, this could be a good exotic to pair with. Next up we have Vesper of Radius. This is another super strong exotic. So it states rifts periodically release arc shockwaves. Final blows with these shockwaves create an arc explosion. While an arc super is equipped, which means you can use it on an arc subclass or with prismatic, the shockwaves and subsequent explosions blind nearby targets. And then also rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by targets. So I'm going to show you that here. This one is very good for low end content, super good for high end content. It's great in almost all PvE uses. So I'm going to cast my rift, and you see the little shockwave going off. So I'm not doing anything. These enemies just came near me and died. So this is super strong, and it's even made stronger while you're on an arc subclass because of the blinding effect. This one is really, really, really good. So the last one we'll talk about is Geomag Stabilizers, and this is another one that's pretty self-explanatory, so I won't show it off in gameplay, but it states damaging targets with Chaos Reach extends its duration, and then also collecting Ionic Traces grants you energy for Chaos Reach. So if you're doing ability spam, you're going to get Ionic Traces, which means you're going to get more super energy. And then also your Chaos Reach is just longer. So if you like Chaos Reach, this could be a good option for it. It's been a little phased out of the meta for better options, but if you like Chaos Reach and this is all you have, it's pretty good. And that about wraps it up for Arc Warlock. So we talked about the supers, talked about the abilities, talked about some aspects, and then we talked about some good exotics to start off your Arc Warlock build. If this helped, awesome. Leave a comment down below. If you wanted to see something else or if I missed something, just let me know. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. See you later.